Are food co-ops a viable channel? Social media tips for food brands and ethnic foods that are actually invented for Americans. For July 25th, 2012, this is Food News Today. Good morning. Food News Today is sponsored by ConAgra Foods, who shares with me the desire to provide the most current, interesting, and unbiased food news. Food co-ops are becoming a popular place to shop. And in an exclusive supermarketguru.com quick poll, we found that 43% of the food-involved subset of our consumer panel are currently members of a food co-op. What drives people to shop at food co-ops? When we asked our panel if they feel like the quality of the food at a co-op is better, over half said yes. In the case of food safety, 50% feel that the food at their co-op is safer. And in the case of pricing, 35% feel that shopping at a co-op is more economical. Current trends in buying local, a growing interest in knowing where our foods come from, and a large amount of attention being directed towards the ability for struggling families to afford fresh, healthier foods could all be part of why shoppers may be interested in joining a food co-op more now than ever. So what keeps us interested online, especially when it comes to consumer goods, specifically foods and brands? Well, I interviewed Van Vandergrift, the Hollywood producer and digital marketing expert who shares how major brand owners are successfully executing online campaigns to win at the shelf. So Van, it's a very different world out there these days, and marketing is taking an entirely different turn, and most of it's online. What's your top tip for food retailers and food brands in order to reach potential customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. What's really changed is that the manufacturers now have the ability to build direct relationships with their consumers. So, previously it was always, hey, I have 200 or 300 customers. That's it. And those are the category managers. But now, manufacturers can build those direct, very valuable assets, such as Facebook fans and e-club members and even mob members. We've been doing a lot of cool things with building mobile groups. So these are, all assets that the manufacturer can tap and use it for account-specific executions, because we know with a mob member where they are with their phone. We can even hit them when they're in specific stores. We know in the e-clubs with zip code information so that we can surround specific doors of an account.
I'm noticing that a lot more shoppers are actually rating and writing reviews online for brands. Now, some are positive and some are negative. What are your suggestions to brands when they receive a negative review?
The reviews are more important than ever, because not only are consumers looking at them often before going into the store when they're planning their trip, but now they're doing it as they're standing in the store. And so they're making informed decisions. And so having a seat at that conversation, participating in that, is really critical for the brand. And so listening to find those reviews, both positive and then encouraging those, creating relationships with those consumers that love your product, as well as addressing the negative reviews head on in a positive conversation, is truly what social is about. And so reaching out positively, attempting to communicate and to solve their problem or address their problem is very important, more important than ever.
Thanks, Van. Now, it's rumored that many of the ethnic foods that Americans have come to love are not actually served in their respective countries, and that they might well have been thought up to suit the American palate. So we had to ask if some of the most popular ethnic foods actually were invented for Americans. General Tso's chicken is supposedly named after General Cao Chong-tang, a Qing Dynasty general. The dish is reported to have been introduced in New York City in the early 1970s as an example of Hunan cooking, though it's not typical of Hunanese cuisine, which is traditionally very spicy and very rarely sweet. Nachos are Mexican, right? Well, wrong. Sure, tortillas are a Mexican staple, but the idea of topping what were originally tortilla scraps with cheese and more was the idea of Ignacio Nacho. the maitre d' of the Victory Club just over the border from Eagle Pass, Texas in the 1940s. Now, the story goes that he was closing up one night when a dozen wives of U.S. soldiers wandered in after a day of across-the-border shopping. Having little to offer, he threw together the chips, cheese sauce, and sliced jalapenos. When the ladies asked the name of the dish, he proclaimed nachos especiales. When I went to China, I was dismayed to find that the fortune cookie was nowhere to be found. But there is a cookie similar in appearance that is made in Kyoto, Japan. And there's a Japanese temple tradition of random fortunes. But the Japanese cookies also differ in taste and size. Back in Los Angeles in 1918, a baker reportedly handed out what we now think of as fortune cookies to the homeless, each one containing an uplifting biblical passage. Remember to log on to foodnewstoday.com anytime to access our archives and replay our past episodes. And thank you for watching.